Hello. I'm going to talk about gaslighting because I read about it in the news yesterday. And the term dates back to like a 1920s movie. But it dawned on me that what the term is all about applies to something Chandrakirti talked about, great Buddhist master Chandrakirti. And while I was sitting there thinking about gaslighting after reading this article, the parallel came to my mind, so I'm going to talk about it. So basically, gaslighting is a term that tries to get you to think, doubt the way you're thinking. In other words, you're on the right track, but there is somebody who doesn't want you to think you are for various reasons, and oftentimes selfish reasons. It happens in marriages and stuff. For example, in a marriage, a gaslighting would be like the husband beats the wife, Then he says the day later, "Sorry, but it's okay, it happens everywhere." So he's very clever. So after a few years of abuse, she begins to believe that she's the one that's not normal and he's the normal one. So the article I read on CNN, in the news, it talked about how in businesses, and huge corporations and in government offices, it's very prevalent, like there's racial abuse or sexual abuse in the office, and then the person goes into the higher up to talk about and complain about it. But instead of sympathizing and trying to route it out of his company or government building, he tries to make it seem like, well, she's just not very tolerant. And they've proven that some people are very good at this. The companies probably hire people that are psychiatrists. So after a while, the worker starts thinking, well, sexual harassment is normal, or somebody that's of a minority gets used to being abused, verbally abused, harsh speech, and so forth. And he begins to think, well, yeah, they're right, gee. And believe it or not, a friend of mine, Doobie Paz, he sent me a link recently on a woman who was on TED Talk. And she was saying that actually pedophilia should be considered an alternate lifestyle, like being gay or something. So we've come a really long ways in our culture. Tolerance is getting redefined. And the normal ones are going to be not normal anymore. So anyway, there was a bill passed. It went through Congress and everything that actually hired very bright psychiatrists and psychologists to go in to snoop into different companies and see what was going on. And if they found any gaslighting going on, they had hell to pay for it. So guess who threw out the bill? Yeah, you guessed it, the outgoing president. Actually, I voted for him because I thought they were both so terrible. So I went for the more terrible. Only second time I voted in my life. The other time was for Gore. Okay, that's beside the point. So how does this all tie in with Chandrakirti? And what this Buddhist master said probably 1,100 or more years ago. Well, there's a lot of stuff going on in the Dharma too, And in everyday life, I talk to people all the time, even Christians, they have problems, because either too good at Christians, they shouldn't be so good, or they're not good enough, and they get to doubt themselves. So, in Tibet, it was very feudal for few centuries, terrible centuries. And so, if you didn't conform to a certain belief on emptiness, even within the Buddhist school, or you held what's called a heterodox Buddhist view. And I won't go into what those were, but they have to do with whether you believe emptiness, things themselves are empty, or they have to be empty of other, and so forth. So if you held one of these views that were opposed to the king's views, you were told that your views were wrong, basically inherently wrong. So people started doubting, well, maybe it's right. So they'd convert to the other way without investigating whether actually they're being, beguiled into thinking that a right way is a wrong way. So Chandrakirti tells a great story. He says that there was a soothsayer, a visionary who visited a kingdom, and he told the king that a rain is going to fall in the kingdom within a few days. And that rain will make everybody who drinks the water from that rain go completely insane. And so the king told the populace, and the populace all got busy covering their wells, and of course the king covered his very diligently. He had all the manpower to do it, but the populace, they didn't do such a good job. And so the rain came, and then the rain came, and what happened was the populace, of course, they didn't have any other source of water, so they drank the rainwater. And they all went insane. But the king didn't go insane, nor the queen, or all the ministers. They're all totally cool. Everybody in the kingdom, though, except the king and his close allies, everybody went completely crazy, 100%. So then the king goes out, after this rain, and goes to survey the kingdom. And can you guess what happened? Everybody's looking at the king. They're totally mad. And they say, the king's insane, the king's insane. Thousands, tens of thousands of his subjects are hollering, the king's insane. So the king began to doubt whether he's really crazy or not. So he didn't know what else to do. So he drank the rainwater, and he danced around with all the subjects, crazy. So he was gaslighted. But the point is a serious one. In our Dharma practice, especially if we're new and we're young and we're entering the Dharma, people will, friends and, that aren't into the Dharma, but they're really close friends, they will say, what are you bothering with that for? Or maybe your parents. When I became a monk, my father said, oh, my son's become a monkey. I was all monkeyed up, according to him. He even offered me half of his business not to become a monk. When I was about 20, he offered me a big portion, 50% of all he owned, which was substantial, shopping centers. And I said, no, I'm going to go my way. And for a while, I just surfed and bummed around beaches meditating. Then I went to India and Nepal. Later on, when he was a few years before he passed away, he drew me close to his face and he said, you know what? You made the right decision. He says, what do you need it all for? So parents, they can gaslight you. Friends, they can gaslight you and say, your life is going well, so why rock the boat? Oh, you got a good job and, everything's fine with you. You're happy, you're married and so forth. Why rock the boat? And I'm not just talking about monks or nuns. I'm talking about anybody that meditates, People will say you're insane. And the pity is, you see, it's just like in a corporation. If you don't really have a strong, firm footing in your own psychology, which many people don't, especially if they're beginning a Dharma practice, they will come to doubt themselves. Yeah, why rock the boat? Why should I rock the boat? I am happy. I'm putting myself at a great risk, just like they're telling me. So then, you might not pursue it out of fear. Pursue your path, your Dharma path. And maybe you are like myself when I started out. During my time, there weren't any, opportunities to get great teachings or anything, And some gurus visited, mostly charlatans, and, friends will say, well, why are you bothering with that, And you could doubt. And so, in order not to doubt, you have to build your practice really and study a lot and associate with people that are better than you, that aren't going to don't have your best interests in mind. They, like the song of Bob Dylan, they don't want to get any higher, but just get you in the hole that they're in. And a lot of people like that in this world. This CNN article indicated that whole government buildings are infested with gaslighters. And that's why there's so much problems in commercial offices and government buildings with people that are beginning to believe that there's a new norm. And it's got so bad that they passed a bill to expose the gaslighters. So you don't want to be like the king, who saw everybody else as crazy. Well, he just figured, well, might as well join him. You can't beat him. Why not join him? So he doubted his own sanity. You never want to do that. If you don't believe in your own sanity, that's okay. But you should know why you don't believe in it. And it's not going to be because somebody tells you that you're crazy or anything. It's going to be because you see it yourself. And the best way to do that, to see it yourself if you're really crazy, is start meditating. You'll see really how crazy you are, and you'll realize the only way to stop being that crazy is to continue meditating and study reflection and meditation. Study Buddhist sutras, visit great teachers, and they'll tell you, yeah, you really are crazy, but keep doing what you're doing and get over it. Not join the crowd, not follow along. So that concludes this talk on gaslighting. I love you. I hope to come up with a Thanksgiving prayer poem or something. If I don't, happy holidays.